So what I've done is I've rubbed out all of the diagonal lines, and across the face I've rubbed out the grid lines as well. So all I'm doing here is I'm just tidying up the lines where I've rubbed things out. Just making sure I can see everything. So we've got a nice grey portrait, lots of greys, lots of blacks and a bit of white. So I want to talk to you a bit about shading. Now quite often people do this when they shade, they do scribbly lines, and the problem is you get overlap, which we don't want. So the correct technique to use, or the technique that I like to use, is just to get loads of overlap by using the side of your pencil and going round and around and around in little circular motions over and over again, but very lightly and very gently, so that you get a nice flat area of tone rather than scratchy scribbly marks, because we're doing skin and we want it to look smooth. So the first thing I'm doing here is I'm just looking at the really dark areas of the picture. Inside Sir's mouth, his eyes are really dark. So all I've done is I've just put those black bits in. Inside the ear is also quite dark, so I'm going to start shading really dark and then lessen my pressure with a pencil to get a lighter grey. So this side of Sir's face is a lot darker, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to start quite gently building up my tone using the same technique, the round and round technique that I've just spoken to you about and just shown you. And you'll see that I'm just building up my tone, going round and around and looking carefully to see where the darker bits are. I've speeded the film up now. Okay, so I'm just darkening up where I can see the darker areas to start off with. There's no magic to this. This is purely about putting the same grey tone, matching the tones that you can see and putting it in the right place. If you use that really gentle shading technique and go round and round where it's really light and then put a little bit more pencil pressure where it's darker, you'll find that the whole picture starts to come together. You can see that by adding this shading, the picture is starting to look a little bit more three-dimensional. In art, we like to call this form. We don't call it 3D. We say something has a sense of form. So I'm now looking at the nose, and you'll see that Sir, if you look at the photo of Sir's nose, there's a highlight on the bridge of his nose. So what I'm doing is I'm just putting shading where I can see the darker bits, and I'm actually going to leave that highlight white. So I'm not going to shade where it's really light on the picture. Okay, so I'm moving on to the mouth and just that, again, trying to match all of the tones that I can see. Just looking at the teeth and the lips. And then putting the darker bits on that side of the face. So I'm still using that gentle round and round technique, but looking at the photo, I can see where the lighter grey is. So I'm not pressing as hard in the lighter areas, and I'm pressing a little bit harder and spending a little bit more time on the darker areas, just building up that tone all the time. So you've got to keep looking at your photograph, keep trying to match the tones you can see, and putting it dark where it's dark and light where it's light. So you see that under Sir's chin is very dark, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time here, and I can press quite hard here, but again I'm still using that round and round method of shading. Okay, you can see this portrait is starting to come together and have more of a sense of form, look more realistic, because I've added shading to it. Okay, adding a few lines for the eyebrows and a little bit of detail in the hair. I'm going to zoom in a minute and you'll see that the marks in the hair should just match the marks, the shape of the hair, the way the hair grows. So if it was curly, I'd be doing curly lines. Okay, zoom back out now to add a little bit more shading. So I want to talk to you also about depth of tone. So can you see that because Sir's tie has got black on it, I'm pressing as hard as I can. So really, to get a realistic finish, you need to be matching the tones you can see. So if you can see really, really dark bits, black bits, then you press as hard as you can with your pencil. Okay, I'm just doing the light grey of the Sir shirt, darkening up his neck a little bit, and darkening up his jacket. Now can you see that I'm going as black as I can on his jacket? Because it's black, isn't it? So I'm just checking the tones I've done now, and I know I might need to go darker, a little bit darker on the shirt as well. So these are the tones that I've used in the picture. So I've gone from black to dark grey to light grey, and then the lightest grey bits, and then to white. Obviously this picture isn't finished, but it should have given you a good idea about how to actually tackle your own picture. Remember to look really carefully, to draw what you see, and to try to match the tones that you see in the photograph.